So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Well, hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to the 1st of July, the day that the football season, from a business point of view, begins, and also the day that Aston Villa have started to do a small bit of incoming business, although we have signed people previous to this as well. But Paddy, the long-running saga of Douglas Luiz to Turin and his two able replacements coming back the other way, along with 22 million or 28 million in cash, is over. And we've just seen there that Samuel Iling Jr. and that Enzo Barrenechea have now officially become Aston Villa players, both of them sporting that that green quarter zip top, Paddy, that I know you're so mad to get your hands on.
That everybody's going to be wearing.
It's great for me, being Irish fans and us, and me being a Limerick hurling fan. Perfect for me. More green, please. That's what I say.
We love a bit of green. I have a green top that I wear on St. Patrick's weekend from the Macron days that always gets an airing. I wore it in West Ham away this year. Enough about the kit that we haven't seen yet. We'll get to the matters at hand. I know, me for one, I'm delighted to see the 1st of July rock around. I don't normally wish away the summer, but the absolute crap we were reading last week from other fans, let's call them, if you could even call them fans, that just haven't got a clue what's going on. So I was happy to see the end of last night, and to know that there will be no more bullshit written about FSP or FFP or PSR or whatever they want to call it. They can't call it PSR now. They'll have to change the name because it's not sustainable. So I'm sure there'll be another variation of what they want to call it. But we kept it within the rules. The word loophole.
You highlighted the rules, Paddy, to other clubs.
Exactly. The word loophole doesn't exist in my view. Nope. It's just cleverness. Yeah. So they need to put up or shut up or change the rules again. But we've kept within the rules. We've brought in players. We saw Dougie go out the door. We saw Mary Kellyman go out the door. We saw Tim Irikbunam go out the door. So there's a lot going on, and there's more to go, I would imagine, and a lot more to come in. But I think it's great that we're here today to talk about what seems to be a long running saga of Dougie leaving yesterday, and Enzo Barrenechea and Samuel Iling or Iling Jr., whatever you want to pronounce it, coming in through the door.
Yeah. And that is a bit of a bone of contention about how you spell his name, but we won't go into that. Look, everybody can make mistakes, and plus, I don't know fully how to pronounce his name either. I think it's Iling Jr., but I'm sure we'll find out once we get the interviews with the guys. And I'm really looking forward to hearing those interviews. It looks like they've been done already, and we've seen some snippets of of the photo shoots and stuff like that up online, because I like hearing from players. I like hearing from some of the guys that come in. I know that Villa Report had up on had some transcribed pieces from Samuel Iling Jr. recently as well, or this morning as well. It seems like he's delighted to be back in England. Looking forward to breaking into the team as quick as possible. All the normal stuff that people would say, but I think he's going to be somebody that people might underestimate with regards to his ability. And also, I think likewise with regards to Barrenechea. We'll get onto those in a minute, Paddy. But let's talk about the man who departed, Douglas Luiz, first, because it's been a long-running saga. I think I can't remember when the first news kind of broke. I think it was the start of June with regards to Douglas Luiz potentially being somebody who could be sold. He has saved us from PSR issues, his transfer. And he's gone to Turin, and I wish him nothing but the best, albeit that I hope we don't draw him. Or maybe I hope we do, so we can see him again in the Champions League this season. But talk to me a small bit about him, Paddy.
Yeah, well look, Dougie came in was it 2020, I think, was it?
2019, I think. 2019.
So when we were promoted, he came in, and he's been a mainstay more or less since then. He's been great for us, especially under Unai Emery. We've seen him at his absolute best. We've also seen him struggle like everybody else to get over the line in the last few months of the season. So not holding that against him. He wasn't the only one, but it was a tough watch yesterday because I think I've alluded to this on the last podcast we did, that I tend to fall in love with players like that, and when they leave, it's tough for people, and I totally get it, and especially kids. You like, I know my friend sent me a video last night of his young fella crying when he heard Douglas Luiz was gone, and that can be difficult. But I think we're heading into an era now where we're probably going to see huge turnover with players, that the managers take in players, deal with them for 2 years, get as much out of them as they can in that 2 years, and then ship them out. And that's what the good teams are doing. Obviously, if you get a really good one that's performing constantly in that time, you hang on to them. But Dougie leaves a massive hole in character in that team, because he's obviously a really good guy and played with a smile on his face and made everybody happy, and added a little bit to the celebrations when goals went in, and did his little dances from time to time. But the main thing we're going to lose is attitude and performance on the pitch, which has been incredible in the last 18 months.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to say as well. He's been through lots of ups and downs with regards to this club. He came in 2019. The reason I remember it is I'm 99.999% certain I was lying on a bed in New York, on the Upper East Side in New York, dying of a hangover when Douglas Luiz was signed. I'm in it. There was a couple of mad things went on during that week. I think we went down to try and see the US women's national team, who had won the World Cup. I'm 99% certain that happened as well, and also there was lots of other weird things going on in jails and public figures and stuff like that going on in the States at the same time. But I think it was 2019. But obviously, look, I think a lot of eyebrows were raised when he came into the club. The figure that he came in, and that he had that we paid for him. For somebody who'd never played in the Premier League, had been out on loan in Girona and was untested, couldn't get a work permit. Remember, he couldn't get a work permit, and that's why Man City's threshold was higher than Aston Villa's were. Sold him to Aston Villa. Excuse me, Villa had were able to get a work permit for him, and the rest, as they say, is history. So been a really, really good contributor to the team. And think of it this way as well, guys. Douglas Luiz, and I know he was a bit younger, but Douglas Luiz comes into this team with kind of the same, I won't say career arc, but kind of the same unknown but untapped potential that Enzo Barrenechea, one of the guys that's coming in this deal, comes with as well. And we didn't know a whole pile about Douglas Luiz, didn't know whether he could do it in the Premier League. We were going on the manager's say so, and Pep turned out to be right. We're very much the same here. Frosinone had Barrenechea, and he had a brilliant season last season. And the Juventus hierarchy seemed to think that he was definitely somebody who could break into their team this season. Obviously, they've had a change of manager. Allegri's moved out, and Thiago Motta has come in, and they included him as part of the deal. So if we can get that same little uptick, and if he can come on in his first game of the season, the first game that he starts, I think Douglas Luiz, the first game he started, put in an absolute thunderblaster against Bournemouth from the edge of the area. Even in a game we lost 2-1, if I'm not mistaken. And if Barrenechea can maybe put his laces through one and stick it in the top corner, he'll be able to endear himself to the fans as well. But Douglas Luiz goes with my full blessing. We're going to see more and more players move. When you get good, there is turnover in your team, and we will be like we have gotten good very, very quickly, and we've kept the core group of our players together. Douglas Luiz is, outside of Jack Grealish, is the biggest name to move on so far. He probably will be the last big name, I think, that will move, a big name, I think, that will move on from Aston Villa this season. Obviously, there will be other people that will move out, but I wouldn't rule out more future big names coming in over the next few weeks, Paddy. And I think this is where the off season gets exciting for me now. The fact that I never thought we wouldn't get PSR sorted. I always thought that there was a bit of a sprinkle of magic that they could do with regards to that. But now we've got that sorted, full steam ahead. I think there will be additions. A couple of people asking in the comments there, do we think that this leaves a hole in our midfield? It does. It leaves a Dougie-shaped hole, because he was a unique part of our midfield. But can it be replaced? I'm sure it absolutely can. Maybe not by the exact same type of player, but I do think that there is another shoe to drop in that midfield area, Paddy. I do think we have another midfielder that we're looking at or that we would like to bring in.
I personally think, and I know the experts are telling you, I don't think Villa are going to sign a lot of players. I think there's a few to go out, and I think those few that go out will be replaced. And I think there is a gaping hole there for Douglas Luiz. And look, Barrenechea, while he is young enough, doesn't have the experience that Douglas Luiz perhaps. Well, he has now, but when he came into us, he only had that season at Girona, and I think he was relegated in that season too, wasn't he? And Barrenechea was relegated with Frosinone last year as well. Ironically, it was Keenan Davis' only goal of the season that relegated Frosinone. Little did we know at that stage that he was going to come in. And I actually watched that game, believe it or not. It only feels like last week. And here we are talking about a game we're going to be playing again in 17 days against Walsall. So it's all going to happen very quickly. I would imagine we're going to see the signings that have been talked about now start to roll in. But we are under pressure to move the likes of, I would imagine Callum Chambers will move out. I would imagine Felipe Coutinho will go. There's a couple of others there on the periphery that might go as well. And the whole thing is to aim towards our squad being able to cope with the amount of fixtures that's going to come at us next season. We've guaranteed 8 Champions League games on top of our 2 cup games, guaranteed cup games, I should say, in the FA Cup and the whatever they're calling the EFL Cup this year. So there's a lot. We played. I think we played over 50 games last year. Is that correct? Did I read somewhere that
I
think 52 games or
54, 55 games? Yeah,
that
could be full. Yeah, we played a ton of games last year.
So, like, there's no reason now on the 1st of July with the slate wiped clean, on the finances that we won't see, and that's why we saw these 2 signings today and not yesterday with the Douglas Luiz one, because it needed to be done. Our financial year end is the 31st of May. And you are, as a business, allowed to push that for a month, which obviously suits when everybody else is finishing on the 30th of June. So that's why it was pushed for the month. You can obviously move that permanently to the 30th of June, but there's a bit of work and stuff that needs to be done with Company's House for that, which they probably will do from now on, because that just gives them a little bit of help with the financial fair play to have that extra month. So we could probably see this happening again next year. But there's loads to be done. There's loads. We didn't even mention Ross Barkley, which seems to be a done deal, which could help fill that Douglas Luiz space, considering how he was deployed by Luton last season. So there's plenty there. We've obviously got Tielemans and McGinn who can do that job too. But I do agree with you. I do believe that there probably will be one more to come in. Plus, we will have Boubacar Kamara to come back, but that could be the back end of this year, I would imagine.
Yeah, I agree. Like we've been linked with players previously. Like Carlos Soler. Linked with him very early on in the transfer window. 12 million from PSG. Maybe that gets reignited again. We've been linked with Alex Baena. From Villarreal, that one just doesn't seem to want to go away. That to me seems like it seems like Unai Emery really wants to try and make something happen there, whether it happens or not. I don't know. We've been linked with Alex Onana, Amadou Onana. Sorry, I got his name wrong as well. I don't see that one. I don't see. I don't even know.
At least you can call him Andre.
Yeah, I don't even know is there an Alex. Yeah, at least I didn't get it wrong. Yeah, from that point of view, we're calling him a different player's name. But I just don't see the Onana one. I don't see us doing any more in league signings this year. I just think it's going to get wild from here on out.
I think we're more likely to bring in Wilfred Ndidi if for that kind of signing, considering that he's available now on a free from Leicester.
You've come out and said it, Paddy. We've been tiptoeing around that one for the last.
We say it now is the 4th of July. He's not a Leicester player anymore. So I could see that happening. I could see to a lesser extent the Iheanacho one, but they're the cute signings that I think will happen. But I also could see the the one you mentioned, Baena, seems to be their top target this summer, along with the Hermoso one that hasn't gone away either, who's also free, isn't he? Is he available on a free?
He is a free, exactly.
Yeah. So all of these things are going to start happening in the next few days, with the exception of those that are on international duty. It makes it a little bit harder to get signings over the line. But as we've seen with Douglas Luiz, you can send a medical representative to America to do the medical, and it worried me a little bit when I saw him play on Saturday in case he got injured, because if all our eggs were in that basket, we might have been in trouble with financial fair play on the 30th of June.
I think we might have seen a cup price John Duran deal at that stage, and we would have all been going sugar. But I think as well, with regards to, and I know, look, obviously we're talking hypothetical here, but I was reading somewhere as well that there's there's going to be more and more reported, I think, over the next few days about offer sheets being in, about, commitments to buy and purchase and stuff like that happening. And, that there will be stories about, well, did you know that Nottingham Forest didn't get, or that Newcastle didn't get the Elliot Anderson deal over the line in time, but they had this offer sheet in and blah, 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 and it'll be adjudicated by the Premier League, and I'm sure everything will be fine with those. There's always this jeopardy, or this big moment that happens with any transfer deadline as such, and 30th of June being a transfer deadline from a financial point of view. But I'm sure a lot of that stuff will come, because I did read about it as well, that there's that there is a provision for that kind of stuff there as well. So, but it has to be adjudicated by the Premier League. I'm sure everything is fine with all that stuff. But I'm just delighted that Newcastle and Forest did a deal like that, because the numbers involved with that, and fair play to them. As I say, we broke the news on how to do this within the rules, and Nottingham Forest and Newcastle said, hey, if they're allowed to do it, we can do it. And Elliot Anderson went one way for 35 million, and the other guy, the Greek goalkeeper, Odysseus, has gone the other way for something like 25 million.
Crazy.
So, look, fair play to him. Newcastle need a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest need an attacking midfielder.
And the way people have reported this news has been absolutely embarrassing over the last week or so.
I knew I'd draw you out.
If you're selling a house and someone really wants to buy it, they're going to pay over the odds. It's the same for a footballer. And I don't believe that 20 million is too much for Omari Kellyman, and I definitely don't believe that 9 million is too much for Tim Irigbounam. I think that in years to come, the Omari Kellyman is the one, just from talking to people about the player's attitude and the way he's just eager to learn. And it actually broke my heart to see his little face sitting there in the Chelsea photograph, and everyone around him smiling, and he's just sitting there with a nothing look on his face.
I messaged you and I said he doesn't look like he wanted to leave. Like, he didn't. He didn't have a smile on his face at all. He just looked like he was like, okay. He looked like he was doing his homework.
Yeah.
So.
But you see a player like that looks absolutely coachable, and looks that a manager could put his absolute trust in him doing what he's asked to do on the pitch. And I just thought that it would have been a perfect backup for Ollie Watkins in years to come. But look, it is what it is, and it's done now. And we might need to look at who comes in to fulfill that position if it's not going to be John Duran. But I'm glad we didn't undersell John Duran either to make up that shortfall, because he has the potential, and he probably, potential is not the word, because he has done it. He's done it on the big stage. He's scored big goals. He scored absolute screamers. So if we could just get him to calm down a little bit and look after himself and be coachable like Omari Kellyman was, by the looks of it. And obviously there's nothing to go on, but that's the way it looks from a Villa point of view. And if he can change his ways and change Unai Emery's mind, that he can be coachable and he can be sensible, then we could probably get a really, really good player there that could really trouble Ollie Watkins. And let's hope that is the situation, because we've been very lucky with Ollie Watkins with injuries and suspensions. He just hasn't picked them up. But we all said last year that Martinez, Watkins, McGinn, Luiz, if any of them got into trouble with suspensions or injuries, we were in trouble. Same with Kamara. When we saw Kamara got injured or suspended at Christmas, all of these things, and it was no coincidence that we struggled after Kamara's injury as well to find the form that we were there.
I think so too, and that the Kamara injury leads me to believe, unless we get exactly what we want for Leander and Donker, he's staying around as well. But that's a podcast for another day. I just don't think
he's one of the ones I was putting in that category of being on the periphery. That if a sensible bid comes in, I think he goes.
That's it. But I don't think we're just going to let him. Like, I don't think we say, yeah, we've cut bait with him for 4 million. You know, I think they're saying, right, listen, we value him at 9 million, 10 million. We're looking for 10 million for him. You know, I just I think that I don't think it's paramount we move him on. Just like I don't think it's paramount that we move on Diego Carlos either. No, I think once again, if the bids come in for those players, that they're negotiable to bids on those guys, provided they can get players in as well in the meantime. I think probably you're at the same space with likes of Moreno and Dina, that we're not just going to flog them just for the sake of it, unless they decide they want to leave the club. But if bids come in, we're going to accept bids if they meet our valuation. And I think that that's probably smart to do. And if you think about it, like with Maatsen coming in, Iling Jr., who we haven't spoken about much here, has been put down as a defender in all of the pieces that Aston Villa have put out at the moment. Obviously, he's left-sided defender there. I personally think he's going to play a small bit further forward, but you know, that does give us a backlog at left back. You mentioned about the striking department. We've only got one striker. We've got Duran, who's potentially out, and we've got Cameron Archer, who's potentially negotiating a deal with Bournemouth as well. You know, so there are more shoes to drop here. There's another person I think to come in midfield. There's potentially another right back or another centre half to come into the team. There's something has to happen or will happen at left back, I think, and a striking position. You know, that has to be addressed, I think, over the coming summer. So that's why I mentioned about the 1st of July. We've added players already, but I think that there's still more and more work to do over the course of this transfer window. So Villa will have to be active, I think, in some way, shape or form, whether it's free transfers, as you say, whether it's waiting to get players out. There will be incomings, I think, as well, as the transfer window moves on. The two guys that have come in the Douglas Luiz transfer, Paddy, Barrenechea and Samuel Iling Jr., talk to me like their profile is not so much their profile, but their demographic. I think that they're bringing in. They're young, hungry players with high ceilings. Where do you stand on all that? You know, do you think that that's the right approach to make? Would you prefer if there was 30-year-olds coming in there? You know, if there was a group of Glenn Whelans coming back in? What's your take on all that stuff?
Well, I think you need a mixture of both. Obviously, like the likes of Pau Torres, Diego Carlos, Luca Dean, Ezri Konza are of the higher end of the age spectrum within that team, and they would be the leaders. John McGinn obviously in there as well. But the likes of Unai Emery as a coach would prefer to come in, and we've seen an absolute. I'm not even going down the road. I'm just going to say that you look at what Pep Guardiola tried to reinvent Jack Grealish at his age, which is completely wrong and has absolutely destroyed him, in my opinion. Both of these players he's brought in, Iling Jr. I see as a Swiss Army knife. I think he could potentially play either left or right back along with attacking left hand side, and has played in a 10 role previously. So he could be vital for us in a number of different positions, especially to come off the bench. And I've absolutely no problem with Barrenechea. You can be sure that our other Argentinian representative would know all about him as well, and would be absolutely on that one when that decision was made. But and look at. Pardon?
Sorry, go on. I was speaking to myself. One of the two guys, either him or Mateus Sule, is from the same town as Emmy. So I'm just going to check it up there now.
I think it's Barrenechea. I could be wrong. One of them is, yeah. It's definitely from the same town.
Yeah,
you're going to get the answer anyway. Yeah. So look, I talked earlier about the coachable players. These kind of players are players that you can mold into your system and look after them. The older players you're buying in a position as a molded player that are probably not going to be able to change. So it's just it just makes sense to me that these players that are coming in at decent enough money, but enough money to enable us to bring in a few more as well.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion, look, I've always said this, and anybody who's listened to the podcast for a while, I think Unai Emery doesn't really mind what demographic of player, what age profile of player he plays with. Like, I will always go back to that Villarreal team, and he won a European competition with Raul Albiol, who was everybody thought was washed up, with Daniel Parejo, who people were thought were washed up, with Vincent De Bore, who people thought were washed up, who Vincent Coquelin, Etienne Capoue, you can go on and on and on with regards to that team. And he won he won the European title with them. So I just think he wants players that will fit in. So like there's awful lot of conversation about, well, we didn't win the Douglas Luiz trade because the money didn't fit. Was the money the right amount of money for us as fans? And I'm kind of the opinion that I think the club looked at it and went, look, he's got 2 years left in his contract. He's not going to sign another one. He's asked us to leave. He said he doesn't want to move within the league. And I firmly, hand on heart, don't believe another team would have stumped up 70 million outside of England for him. I think 50 million was tops we were going to get for him regardless, amongst around Europe. And that's the world we're living in at the moment. If you're looking for over 50, like the Bundesliga don't pay that money. The Italian teams can't pay that money unless they send players with them. Spanish clubs, Barcelona are struggling to register players at the moment. Could we have done a deal with them? Potentially, but Barcelona always pull a rabbit out of a hat. They're going to be fine from a financial point of view. Real Madrid don't want him. Where is he going? Is my answer, outside the Premier League. And I think Villa looked at it and went, these are two good players that we're getting back. And yes, I know Johnny Joe Public on the street ain't going to have a whole pile of knowledge about these guys, but we want them. And we're willing to take 28 million in return and solve our PSR and shake Dougie's hand and say thank you for an amazing 5 years. And I think it's as simple as that. Like I try not to get wrapped up in the values of this specific deal.
There's a number of people are mentioning in the comments there. I'm also glad too that not going to rock up and. Have we crossed over? Do you hear me?
I think so. I think we got muddled up there.
All right. I just added that I think I'm glad to know that he's not going to rock up twice a year against us in the Premier League as well, and possibly a cup tie. So I'm glad that he's not gone to Chelsea or Arsenal like he was looked at last year or 2 years ago. And this is a long time in the making. Somebody did suggest that this was possibly agreed at the beginning of last season, but was pulled out of by Villa at the last minute. So we've got it probably his best year out of him in that time. So he goes with my blessing. I will miss him. He's a great lad to have around. Really, I love footballers that play with a smile and play with a bit of flair. And he certainly was capable of doing anything for us. And he played with his heart on his sleeve. And good luck to him and best wishes for the future.
I think so too. Absolutely. As I say, I think another player will come in his stead in midfield. I'm not sure that Barrenechea is a replacement for him. I think he's a wholly a player on his own, and this is the big thing that I will be doing. I won't be doing the whole at the end of the year, well, Douglas Luiz played a stormer for Juventus and he was brilliant for Juventus and the two boys were bedding in of that. That's what I'm expecting. If these two boys turn out to be wonder kids in year one, it's a massive pile of gravy on my spuds. If they don't, it's absolutely fine for me as well because they're young players. They're here on 5-year contracts, and I'm not expecting Barrenechea to be an exact replacement for Douglas Luiz. And I tell people not, I try not to tell people out the fan, but I think if we're being smart about it as a fan base, we would think the same. He might still turn out to be an absolutely excellent player, and that's brilliant. And if he does, and he could do, he's all the potential to do that. He could come into this league and light it up. He could be this big tackling midfielder who's able to get that ball moving forward, and we've got everybody going, wow, this is the Enzo Chelsea thought they were buying when they bought Enzo Fernandez. And that could very well happen. But if after his first 10 games he's not lighting it up, I'm not going to be going, crap, here, I'm panicking. Did we lose the Douglas Luiz trade? I think that's just a small bit overreactive, and it's also overreactive to think that he's going to be the next Claude Makelele as well back there too. So, from that point of view, I wish the both of them best of luck. I'm just looking here that Stato has up, and I don't know what their squad numbers are going to be, so don't buy any shirts with their numbers on the back of them from some dodgy fella on the side of the street until they get announced. But Ian Maatsen wore 22 at Dortmund, and that's free this season. Nicola Zaniolo after moving on. Samuel Iling Jr. wore 17 at Juventus, and that's free. after Clement Longley moving on, and Enzo Barrenechea wore 45 of Frosinone last year, and that also is vacant at Aston Villa. So maybe they're the squad numbers that they come up for those of you who are interested in. If you want to put a little wager on those, potentially they're the squad numbers that might pop up for those guys as well. I had something else really quickly to chat to you about, Paddy, there to ask you about, and I can't really remember it now. Women's manager. We announced the women's manager. Yes, we announced it seems like I'm going to be really honest. Like, it popped up saying that Villa had interviewed the Icelandic lady whose name escapes me, Elisabeth Gunnar Sidson. I think I can't remember how to pronounce her surname. And then they said that they had ruled her out and that they were signing this guy from Feyenoord. And I'd completely forgotten that we had that vacancy within the club, Paddy. I'm going to be really honest and call it a bias in my behalf or what. But I completely forgotten that vacancy was there. But it looks like this guy seems to come in here with a decent CV, decent resume, and maybe we start to see more movement in the women's squad as well, because as you've said before, last year was a bit of a disappointment based on the year previously. Even though we brought in some really good players, I think there probably is a small bit of surgery to be done in that team too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously a couple gone out the door as well. Simone McGill has gone. There's rumours that Alicia will go as well now that Dougie's gone, but who knows? Yeah. So it's it's an important thing for the women's team to get sorted. It went on, it kind of rumbled on like the Ireland manager situation, although we might be sitting here, the podcast could be gone before the Ireland team get a manager.
Dead and buried.
But look, it's a good appointment. Looking forward to seeing what he does and ultimately who he brings in, because if he can unearth some Dutch talent or anyone in Northern Europe that no other team knows about, and can mold them into good players, then we could have come up with a winner here. So it does remain to be seen. It remains to be seen who'll stay and who'll go as well. I honestly thought we were going to see Alicia leave this week, and the reason I thought we were going to see her leave is that we would have got a few quid for her, because as we know that money would be it doesn't come into the financial fair play side of things, what you spend on the women's team. So what comes in is obviously pure profit as well when you're weighing it up against that. But that didn't happen. I was expecting that to be announced yesterday, which would have been some crack on the first couples deal of the anywhere in the world. But it wasn't done.
It should probably just be like going a free, Paddy.
But it seems to be an appointment that they put a lot of thought into, and it's got it's got great potential. So let's see what he does in the next few weeks to get some players in.
Absolutely. And just the guys reminded me here in the chat as well, that other piece I wanted to mention, rumours abound that potentially Spurs are going to come hard for Jacob Ramsey. I don't see it myself. I don't see there any chance of that happening. Spurs have just spent 40 million, the bones of 40 million on Archie Gray, with Joe Rodden going to Leeds in the opposite direction. It's more or less confirmed Archie Gray in a 6-year deal. Would have loved him at Villa. Really, really good. Just don't think Villa were going to spend 40 million on an 18-year-old, considering we've brought in 2 younger players. I think the guys who are coming in from here on out will have a bit more experience, albeit Archie Gray has the world at his feet, and he's going to be a cracking signing for Spurs. I don't see Jacob Ramsey in a white shirt next year under any circumstance, Paddy. But am I wrong to be so defiant or definite about that?
I think the only shirt we're going to see him in next year is a claret and blue shirt, and even if that is only till January, to give him an opportunity to get back up to full speed and see what he's capable of after the injury, because he's had a very very fractured season, which needs to be addressed obviously as well, and hopefully he went away and got a decent rest before he comes back to Bodymore Heat to really put in a decent pre-season and get himself back up to speed. And and look, he'll be a great addition if he gets back to full health, let's say, as will Emi Buendia, who we haven't spoken too much about as well, who can also play in a number of positions across that forward line. So we're going to have plenty of players, we're going to have plenty of options, and as we said, more to come and more to go out, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so too, for 100% sure. Right, we're going to leave it at that, guys. Thanks so much for your time. If anything breaks, and I know there's been a lot of tentative rumours to strikers, young strikers recently. I might do one on another young striker whose surname I cannot pronounce from the Belgian league, from Antwerp. George is his first name, and his surname I need to practice. So I will not be trying to pronounce it here until I've had some practice on it. But if any news breaks, and I think we will hear news on potential incomings over the next couple of days. Una likes to get his squad together. You know, we've got Walsall in 16 days' time, the 17th of July. I would expect links, at least anyway, to be intensifying between now and then. And if anything does break, we will come back to you guys and chat about it as we always do. But in the meantime, everybody, thanks a million for listening. Thanks a million for watching. Please hit subscribe on YouTube on the way out if you haven't done so already. If you're catching this on Twitter and you're new to us, please hit the follow button on Twitter as well. There's been some weird things going on Twitter. I woke up one morning, I looked at our follower count, and it was like 7,800 and something. And then looked at it today, and it's like 9,100. So I couldn't tell you how many people follow us on Twitter, but all I know is that the majority of you guys are sound. The ones that aren't bots are absolutely sound. But it looks like there is some fluctuation there on the numbers, but which isn't anyone else's fault other than just the madness that's going on in that app at the moment. But yeah, guys, if you could share this around, I'd really appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything to do, and you never know, might get somebody into the community that's that really loves what we have to say and loves interacting with you guys too, and that's what it's really all about. So thanks a million, everyone. We'll be back again very soon, I'm sure, with more news from Aston Villa. But in the meantime, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.